And via phone, we have the Acting Director of the Bermuda Weather Service, Ms. Michelle Pitcher. Hurricane Earl continues its track towards the island and remains a threat to Bermuda. Currently, Bermuda remains under a hurricane watch and a tropical storm warning. Earlier today, we convened an Emergency Measures Organization meeting to get the latest updates on Hurricane Earl. At this time, I will turn it over to Michelle Pitcher for a weather briefing based on the 12 noon forecast. Following the Bermuda Weather Station briefing, I will provide the community with an update on public services. Michelle?
Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. As of the 12 noon update, Hurricane Earl is a Category 2 hurricane. It is currently 198 nautical miles to the south of Bermuda. It has started to move a bit more north-northeasterly now, as expected, at 11 knots. The maximum winds are 90 knots with gusts to 110 knots, which places it as a very strong Category 2 hurricane. And we expect to see that intensify to a Category 3 hurricane this afternoon. Bermuda does remain under hurricane watch and a tropical storm warning. And we do expect the tropical storm force winds to begin to impact the marine area later this afternoon. And then around early this evening, we should start seeing those winds on the island. We've already experienced some isolated thunderstorms and heavier showers in the first rain band that's come over the island from Hurricane Earl. And we expect that to continue and likely increase overnight tonight. The closest point of approach is forecast to be 83 nautical miles to the southeast at midnight tonight. We are already experiencing large swells and rip currents and dangerous surf on our beaches, and the southern and eastern shores will be the most effective as Earl passes by. We do see a brief time period around the closest point of approach where the southeastern marine area will be experiencing strong tropical force winds, that's 50 knots, but those are not expected to impact the island at this time. Also, we are not expecting hurricane force winds in the area at this time. However, please keep your eyes on the forecast, as any changes in the forecast could mean larger changes for our local conditions. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. So Bermuda, considering this latest information, I can advise that the Bermuda Police Service, the Royal Bermuda Regiment, the Parks Department, the Ministry of Public Works, and Govt have mobilized their resources in key areas around the island to ensure our safety and security, and to provide a rapid response following the passage of Hurricane Earl. Based on the deteriorating weather conditions and out of an abundance of caution, we are encouraging motorists, commuters, and the public to be off the roads by 8 p.m. tonight. As it relates to public services, here's what I can advise. Government offices remain open today, and government services are operating as normal until 5 p.m. The Causeway remains open. Turning to public transportation, regarding bus service, based on the current forecast, the last run will be 8 p.m. and the service will stand on at 9 p.m. There will also be some ferry service interruptions. On the Blue Route, the last scheduled ferry is 5 p.m. today. The Green Route, the last scheduled ferry is at 5:20 p.m. today. The Pink Route, the last scheduled ferry is at 5:20 p.m. today. And on the Orange Route, there is no service at all today. The intention is for buses to operate as per normal on Friday morning, pending an overnight assessment. However, there may be further disruptions to ferry services Friday morning. The airport remains open and flights are scheduled as normal, including today's British Airways flight. Travelers should contact their respective airlines to stay abreast of flight information. Tomorrow morning, airport officials will carry out an assessment of their operations. Turning to beaches, as you can currently see, the conditions are looking increasingly dangerous at our beaches. As a public safety measure, the Parks Department has posted high surf warning signs along our South Shore. So we are again urging members of the public not to venture into the ocean under these dangerous conditions. We are anticipating that Earl will cause some challenges for those living in low-lying coastal areas with possible storm surge and flooding. So we are urging these residents to take the necessary safety precautions. As we all know, our public schools are set to resume on Monday. Following the passage of the storm, school custodian staff will inspect all public schools to ensure that all is clear. Additionally, you will be aware that the Ministry of Health and the Ministry of Education have been working on coordinating the return to school testing. School testing is scheduled to take place tomorrow per normal. Should there be any changes to the program, the public will be updated accordingly. Switching to the government shelter. With Cedar Bridge Academy currently undergoing some renovations, the government shelter will be located at Harrington Sound Primary School. We are prepared and ready to assist residents should the need arise. Lastly, in the past few weeks, against the backdrop of an active hurricane season, we have been reminding and urging residents to get storm ready. By now, your hurricane preparations should be either nearing completion or be complete. I don't have to remind you that storms by their very nature are unpredictable. So it's critical to ensure that we are ready and prepared. This means making sure we have ample storm supplies, enough food and medicine stocks, having a good supply of water, making sure we have secured our homes, properties, boats, and most of all, checking in on our neighbors, particularly those most vulnerable among us, to ensure that they have what they need to navigate the storm. Finally, I want to extend my thanks and appreciation to all our member agencies in the EMO for their tireless work and dedication. And as the Minister of National Security, I wish to extend my particular gratitude to all our emergency services and uniformed personnel who will be working throughout the night and into the early hours of tomorrow morning to make sure we stay safe and protected. To all of Bermuda, please heed the official advisories during the storm's passage. Please stay indoors, and most of all, please be safe. But before I accept any questions, I'd like to remind the public, please don't put out any trash tonight, because trash bags in high winds can become projectiles and cause a hazard to other residents. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister, and thank you, Acting Director of the Bermuda Weather Service. This is now time for questions, and I'm going to invite Jonathan Bell from the Royal Gazette to come up and field a few questions for the Minister and our panelists. Thank you.
Thank you very much, folks. I guess I had one for Miss Pitcher, if you're still on the line there. Are you still available?
Yes, I am.
Miss Pitcher, hi. So it looks like we've got what's happening with Earl pretty well nailed down. There's another system looking to be on its way out there, obviously quite some distance away. And with the caveat that it's quite some distance away, is there anything that you can tell us about that at this point?
Yes, there is another watch area that the NHC has been monitoring off to our southeast. But until it's been named, we really don't have too much information on it. However, I can say that the same mechanism that is helping Earl to turn to the northeast and away from our area will also remain in place over our area to help drive any further storms off to our east at this point in time.
Thank you very much. Minister, I wanted to follow on a story that we had today. I guess there was a sort of hair-raising rescue scene down at Marley Beach yesterday. And I figured it was only fair to ask, given it came up in that story. Should we have put up signs actually warning people off the beaches earlier, or does this tie in with the exercising of common sense that you raised? I mean, the people did say in that story that they thought, there should have been a warning at the beach advising people to stay out of the water. So I figured I would ask that.
Well, actually, Jonathan, thank you for that. Parks has been doing a great job actually monitoring the beaches and how the surf and riptide is coming. But what happened yesterday is a reminder of what we said yesterday, and I reiterate again, that on an abundance of caution, well, I'm asking swimmers and daredevils to stay away from the waters for this time.
Got you. You mentioned the regiment. Is the regiment embodied?
No, but they are on standby to be embodied if needed.
And so far, is it looking that the causeway is going to remain open overnight, or will the decision to close the causeway be made as and when, should conditions deteriorate more than we think? Or for now, we're thinking the causeway is going to be open overnight? As
it stands, the causeway will be open, but if the conditions deteriorate, we will have another meeting. But at this time, I could turn over to Mr. Cusham if he has anything else to offer.
Yeah, the causeway is open. We're monitoring the BWS and National Hurricane Center bulletins that come out every 6 hours. There's interims one at 9 p.m. and then at 12 midnight. And if we need to pivot to change, rethink, then we can convene a meeting and we're ready to react on that.
So should that decision, just so that folks know, if that decision is made, do we know when and by what means that decision will be made public?
So it'll be made public by the MO, but we are already advising motorists to be off the road by 8 p.m. because There's going to be hazardous conditions driving on motorcycles. It's going to be hazardous for high-sided vehicles, and it's going to be awkward for cars when you change direction and are suddenly impacted by another wind direction hitting your vehicle. So we're saying to people, don't be on the road anyway. And if we do have to close the causeway, we will act as the information comes in. Hopefully, we won't have to.
Got you. Yeah, I won't be out there. Last one from me, and that's for yourself, Mr. Minister. On Monday, Mr. Sion highlighted problems in the prison. Temperature is one of them. Staffing was another. In the event of a crisis, not that we're looking at having one, but in the event of adverse conditions, is Westgate up for it?
We are here today, Jonathan, in all due respect, to deal with Hurricane Earl.
Gotcha.
The issues up at Westgate are being looked at by our department, our ministry, but let's deal with Hurricane Earl today.
Gotcha, sir. Thanks.
Thank you, Jonathan, for your questions. Very much appreciated. No questions. Right. Well, thank you very much, everyone, for joining us this afternoon. That concludes today's press briefing regarding Hurricane Earl. I can encourage you to stay abreast of the updates from the EMO as they become available. Thank you very much for Michelle Pitcher for joining us this afternoon and Steve Cosham. That concludes our briefing. Thank you.